Hi guys, and this evening I was just going to do a quick video because I've been watching quite a few YouTube posts about the Canon and Nikon or Nikon mirrorless sort of bodies that are possibly coming this year or next year, and how will waiting 8 to 12 months be worth your while or not be worth your while, depending on if they actually release anything that is going to sort of challenge Sony as it be. You know, as we know, sort of for the last, well, since 2012, I'd say, Sony have been teasing Canon and Nikon with the Sony mirrorless bodies, and they have become more and more capable. Every single one they bring out has a more and more sort of DSLR feel, and where the DSLR has its strengths but also has a few weaknesses, the mirrorless has had obviously a few more weaknesses compared to its strengths, and they are getting smaller and smaller and smaller every single time they bring out a new body. So we're up to the A7R3, the A7 III and the A9 now on sort of, you know, the top level bodies. So, you know, they are absolutely incredible. So waiting 8 to 12 months for a possible release from Canon and Nikon, that can either, you know, are you going to be able to put your lenses that you own now straight on? Are they going to keep, unlike Sony, who've now obviously removed the mirror box sort of area and attached it to the lens, so you've always got that on a sort of E-mount lens, you've always got that little bit extra bit of lens that actually obviously equates for the difference between having a mirror box there on a DSLR and not, keeping your 35mm, you know, full frame sensor at the correct sort of ratio. You know, are Canon going to keep a mirror box sort of area there, so you can still use your DSLR lenses straight onto the body? Same for Nikon. Are they going to do that? Or I did see that a rumour that Nikon may adopt the Sony E-mount fit. Who knows? It's a possibility because they have been using Sony sensors for many years. What else? I mean, as I know quite a few photographers who are itching to sell their Canon gear. They sort of feel a bit, you know, they're being not let down, but they're struggling with what they've got. And do they swap to Sony now, or do they wait 8 to 12 months for a possible, you know, full frame update, obviously into the mirrorless world of either Canon or Nikon? I've found, I mean, I'm coming from Nikon into Canon and Nikon, then into Sony. So SLR world, so the old SLR days, film, you took your photos, you never knew what you're going to get. I mean, obviously experience, you kind of knew what you were going to get before you actually had the images processed. And then into Canon and Nikon, and the reason I went to Canon and Nikon was because they were giving so much away for nothing, because they were selling to Sony, so they had all this stock they just wanted to get rid of. So, you know, I've got some fantastic kit for a relatively low price, which I even sold on later on when I moved into the Sony DSLR range, back when the A700 arrived. So, you know, it's a case of I've found as the mirrorless appeared that I can get the work done more efficiently, mainly because you can see what you're going to get before you actually take the image. You know, and in all cases, you know, for the EVF and the screen. So that, you know, it really helps you get the job done much quicker and easier. For definitely things like weddings, products, I'm taking a lot less images than I used to with a DSLR. Definitely with a SLR. You know, but at the end of the day, all the cameras we own out there, it doesn't matter if it's Canon, Nikon, Pentax, Hasselblad, Sony, old Canon and Nikon, you know, the list goes on, Fuji, whatever. From the last 5 years to now, maybe even 6 or 7 years actually, the quality of the images that all of those cameras produce are insane. They're brilliant. You can actually take an old photo, a 6 megapixel image from an old, APS-C size sensor from a digital SLR, and it's not far off being as good as some of them, the newer ones today. So, yes, the quality is amazing. So it doesn't matter what we're using. It's just a case of we need to learn and get the most out of the bodies that we actually have decided to buy. So it doesn't matter what make you're using, but the fact is that if Canon and Nikon are going to go mirrorless, which apparently they are, what are they going to bring sort of to the table that is going to make you as a Canon owner or a Nikon owner not want to swap to Sony? The autofocus system and everything in the new Sonys are incredible. Lots and lots of points of focus which really help with mainly video, where the Nikons just can't keep up with the video side of things, but the Canons are very good. Also, a lot of the other sort of features like the IA, so the IF or the eye autofocus that Sony now have on pretty much all their high-end cameras works amazingly. It's sped up the way you can get your composure, your eyes in focus, and basically the whole shot together in one easy move, rather than having to sort of focus on the eyes, lock out, and then recompose your shot. So there's lots of things like that have come to play. Even using a manual focus lens. So I use a Samyang 135 f2 lens for portraiture sometimes, not all the time, but it's a lovely, beautiful lens. It's not expensive, it's very sharp, and it's kind of slows the shoot down, which I quite like. So it takes you back to the the old film days where you were you just relaxed a bit, and you can get a bit more out of the model sometimes. But to do a full body, sharp to the eye photograph with a DSLR and that lens, it's not impossible, but it takes a lot of attempts to get it right. So obviously, being manual focus, with the Sonys you can zoom in through the EVF or on the screen, which allows you to actually zoom in onto the subject's face, whatever, and get it in focus. So utilising the peaking as well, which shows you lines. The Fujis as well, they do the same thing as well, which is really good. What else we got here? Like I said, yes, mirrorless cameras have got some weaknesses, but as Sony or even Fuji and all the other companies actually make the mirrorless cameras, every time they bring a new one out, they're improving on any weakness they've found. The only downside at the moment is Sony, for some reason, aren't giving us a full articulated screen. Don't know why. I think they think that to be different, they're not going to bother. But it allows, obviously, you can connect your phone or your iPad or whatever to give you a live screen. But still, it'd just be nice to be able to rotate the screen a bit more. Like I was saying, the DSLR has been around about 18 years now, from the early years, where we started off at sort of, I think, 1 megapixels or 2 megapixels. So they've had 18 years to develop, and if you think about it, they've got better and better and better. Like all of the technology we're using is getting better. But they've kind of got to a point where 18 years down the line, they haven't really evolved much in the last 5 years at all. So you think about 5 years. But the mirrorless technology, 2012, about where they sort of started coming to now. So 6 to 8 years in total. So there's a 10-year difference, and the mirrorless cameras have jumped, that far ahead, as such, in the development market of those cameras. So, how far can they take a DSLR compared to the mirrorless technology? The mirrorless technology has opened up a massive area of, being allowed. You can allow them to do some things that you can't do with the DSLR. Yes, obviously, looking straight down the lens, through a pentaprism and down the lens and adjusting things, and actually seeing things kind of real is nice. But actually, once you get used to the EVFs and how clear they are, I mean, the A7R3, for example, the EVF on that is incredible. It's actually better than your eyesight. It's nuts. So what can they actually do with these DSLRs now? They can make them a little bit quicker, they can make them a bit faster, you know, focusing and processing and things like that. Obviously bigger megapixels, or you know, better low light, but that's kind of it really. Where the mirrorless have seemed to have sort of added these new dimensional of, you know, different things that you can have, like obviously the IAF, full-on object tracking. You know, the RX10 Mark IV, for example, 24 frames a second. The A9, 20 frames a second, in complete silence as well if you want. So the vibration control is obviously almost non-existent now because you've got no mirror slap at all. You know, ISO range on pretty much all of the cameras out there, DSLRs, mirrorless and everything, are amazing now. So kind of, you know, my advice would be, if you are a Canon and Nikon user and you're not that bothered about upgrading yet, is it really worth, you know, it might be worth you waiting 6, 8, 12 months to see what they actually do, because I don't really know, obviously no one really knows, but Canon and Nikon need to recreate or implement a lot of the stuff that Sony has given us, which has made our jobs easier. So when you're actually doing a job, you know, you can actually get some of the stuff done so much more efficiently with 1 or 2 shots, compared to with a DSLR you were taking 10, 15 shots sometimes to get it, you know, correct. You know, so the technology is actually helping us. What else have we got? So with the A7 II, the A7R2, the A7R3, the A7 III now, and the A9, Sony might have a bit of an issue on there. You know, if Canon and Nikon sort of pull their finger out and actually, you know, release something, Sony are going to have to jump ahead again to try and stay with the innovations that they have given us in the last 5 or 6 years, that Nikon and Canon don't seem to have really done. Yes, they're still producing amazing cameras, I'm not denying that at all, and the quality of the image is absolutely amazing, but it's just the way we can use them. Yes, the Sonys, the ergonomics sometimes are a bit iffy, but it's like anything, you get used to using what you use every day. So nothing is perfect, we know that. You know, so Sony really need to sort of try and, if they're going to push again, they've got to sort of keep Canon and Nikon off their heels as such. So if within 8 to 12 months from now, Canon and Nikon don't release anything, I would suggest that anybody out there thinking about switching, it might be worth actually obviously going with Sony, because they're probably going to bring something else out anyway. You know, as I've said today, that every single camera, you know, up to 5 years ago, pretty much, is incredible. It's nuts. I mean, the cameras before that are still amazing, but there's been a massive leap in quality. You know, the sensor technology and everything has come a long way for ISO and things like that. So, you know, the A7R3, even the A7R2, I was never sharpening any of the RAWs coming out of they're so clear and sharp, you know, straight out the camera. I've never bothered actually adding any sharpening when processing. So, you know, it's what you need is, if you know, so what Sony have given us is very high resolution and intermediate resolution, so 24 megapixels and 42.3. Canon and Nikon have both done the same, so you know, you've got 50 megapixels from Canon, you've got the, I think it's 46 from Nikon. So we've got the high resolution, we've also got the 20 megapixels, we've also got 24 megapixels from everyone, sort of thing. So that there's a lot of choice out there. Sony are still getting a bit of jip for not having enough lenses, which I think that's a bit of rubbish really, because there's a lot of choice out there. There's a couple of lenses that would be quite nice to have, but then they will come. Now you've got lots of companies adding to their ranges, like Sigma are just releasing some more. Samyang seem to be coming along strongly, which is quite nice. You know, so it's just, I thought a quick talk about that really. So any questions, you know, or thoughts, just comment below. Anyway guys, that's my rant, or blah 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 as you call it. There might be some interest in there, I don't know, but it's just some thoughts. I've just written a load down. So you know, if you like that video, just obviously, like I say, comment. Maybe I'm up for a discussion. if anybody thinks or would like to, I mean, maybe we should say what you'd like to see in the next Canon if they're going to bring a mirrorless out. What would you really like to have in it? What would you have in the Nikon? And if you're a Sony user, what do you think Sony could do to improve the next set of cameras that are coming out? If it's going to be an A7R4 or an A10, for example, I don't know. So maybe we should have a little discussion about that. I'm up for that. So yeah, please subscribe, guys, and click the little notification bell, and I'll speak to you soon.